The Magical Forest and the Brave Little Fox. Chapter 1, The Whisper in the Wind. In the small village of Willowbrook, at the edge of a vast forest, lived a little red fox named Finley. Finley wasn't like other foxes. While most were busy hunting or playing, Finley loved exploring. His big ears twitched at every sound, and his bright eyes sparkled with curiosity. The villagers often whispered, "That fox is always up to something." One breezy morning, Finley sat by a bubbling brook. The wind seemed different today, soft yet heavy with a strange sound. Leaning closer, Finley heard a faint whisper, "Find the heart of the forest, save us." Chapter 2, The Mysterious Map. The voice startled Finley, but he was too curious to feel afraid. The heart of the forest? Save who? He wondered aloud. As he looked around, something shiny caught his eye among the tall grass. It was an old, crumpled map. Finley's paws trembled as he unfolded it. The map showed Willowbrook and the forest, but there was a big red X deep within the woods. Below it were the words, "The heart of the forest." Finley grinned. "This is it. My adventure begins." Chapter 3, Friends Join the Journey. Before venturing into the forest, Finley decided he might need help. First, he visited Ellie, the wise owl. Ellie was perched in her favorite oak tree, reading an old book. "Ellie, I found this map. Will you come with me?" he asked. Ellie adjusted her tiny spectacles and said, "A map, Very curious. I suppose I can come, but we'll need someone strong, too." Together, they approached Max, the friendly bear cub. Max was busy picking blueberries when they told him about the map. "A treasure hunt? Count me in." Max boomed, his voice full of excitement. With Finley, Ellie, and Max ready, the team stepped into the forest. Chapter 4, The Twisting Trails. The forest was darker than they expected. Tall trees blocked the sunlight, and thick vines covered the ground. Ellie flew ahead to scout, while Max cleared the path with his strong paws. Finley led the way with the map, his heart pounding with excitement. As they walked, they came across a fork in the path. One trail was sunny and easy, while the other was dark and overgrown. The map glowed faintly, pointing to the darker trail. "Looks like the hard way is the right way," Finley said bravely. The friends agreed and stepped onto the shadowy path. Chapter 5, The Laughing Stream. The darker trail was filled with strange sounds. Suddenly, they heard giggles. A sparkling stream ran through their path, and in it were tiny water sprites. "Hello, travelers," the sprites chimed. "To cross our stream, you must solve a riddle." The riddle was tricky. "I'm not alive, yet I grow. I have no lungs, yet I need air. What am I?" Finley scratched his head, Ellie tapped her beak, but Max suddenly said, "A fire." The sprites cheered, correct, and let them pass. Chapter 6, The Sleeping Giant. Deeper in the forest, they came to a clearing with a huge, snoring creature, a giant. He was blocking the path. We can't wake him up, Ellie whispered. Giants can be grumpy. Finley had an idea. Let's use the blueberries Max collected. Maybe the smell will lure him away. Max placed the berries near the giant's nose. The giant sniffed, mumbled, and rolled over, clearing the way. The friends tiptoed past, giggling quietly. Chapter 7: The Glowing Tree. After hours of walking, they reached a glowing tree surrounded by magical light. Ellie gasped, "This must be the heart of the forest." But something was wrong. The tree's glow was dim, and its leaves were wilting. A voice boomed from the tree, "Brave ones, I am the guardian. My heart is weak because the forest is in danger. You must find the crystal of life to save me." The map showed another X, deeper in the forest. Without hesitation, the friends continued their quest. Chapter 8: The Crystal Caves. The map led them to a dark cave. Inside, the walls sparkled with crystals, but it was hard to tell which one was the crystal of life. "Let's split up and look," suggested Finley. As they searched, a growling sound filled the cave. A shadowy wolf appeared, its eyes glowing red. The wolf growled, "Only those with true courage may take the crystal." Finley stepped forward. "We're here to save the forest, and we won't back down." The wolf's eyes softened, and it stepped aside, revealing a shining green crystal. Chapter 9: The Race Against Time. With the crystal of life, the friends raced back to the glowing tree. The forest seemed darker now, and the air was heavy. "Hurry," Ellie urged. When they reached the tree, Finley placed the crystal at its base. A bright light exploded, spreading through the forest. The leaves turned green again, flowers bloomed, and the air smelled fresh and sweet. The guardian's voice returned, "Thank you, brave ones. The forest lives because of your courage and friendship." Chapter 10: Home Again. The adventure was over, but the friends felt closer than ever. They returned to Willowbrook as heroes, though they didn't brag about their journey. Instead, they promised to protect the forest and its secrets. As Finley lay in his cozy den that night, he smiled. He had started as a curious little fox, but had become a true adventurer. And so, the magical forest and the brave little fox lived happily ever after. Chapter 11: The Secret of the Silver Moon. A few days after their grand adventure, Finley noticed something strange in the night sky. The full moon, which was usually bright white, shimmered with a silvery hue. Ellie, always curious, said, "That's odd. The moon doesn't usually look like that." The guardian had mentioned the forest's balance was delicate. Could this mean something else is wrong? Max wondered aloud. The friends decided to visit the heart of the forest again to ask the guardian. When they arrived, the glowing tree seemed healthy, but its voice sounded weary. "The forest is safe for now, but the silver moon is a warning. Trouble is brewing beyond the mountains." Ellie's eyes widened. "The mountains? No one has ever crossed them." Finley puffed up his chest. Then it's time someone did. Chapter 12, The Forgotten Valley. To reach the mountains, the friends had to cross the Forgotten Valley. The valley was rumored to be haunted, but Finley and his friends didn't let fear stop them. As they entered, a thick mist rolled in, and strange whispers surrounded them. Max shivered. Is someone there? Suddenly, ghostly figures appeared. But as Ellie flew closer, she realized they weren't ghosts at all. They're just glowing fireflies, she laughed. The fireflies danced around the group, lighting their way through the mist. With their new glowing friends, the team crossed the valley and reached the base of the mountains. Chapter 13, The Mountains Test. The mountains were steep and treacherous. As they climbed, they came across a glowing stone archway with ancient runes carved into it. A booming voice spoke. To pass, you must prove your unity. One of you must solve the riddle, one must show strength, and one must show courage. The riddle was first. Ellie, being the cleverest, flapped her wings and solved it easily. Time flies like the wind, she declared, and the archway glowed brighter. Next was strength. Max pushed a heavy boulder out of the way, his muscles rippling with effort. Finally, it was Finley's turn to show courage. He was asked to walk across a narrow ledge with a dizzying drop below. Despite his shaking paws, Finley focused and made it across. The archway opened, and they passed through together. Chapter 14, The Sky Bridge. The path led to a beautiful but dangerous sky bridge, an ancient rope bridge swaying high above a deep chasm. Below, they could see sparkling blue waters and flying creatures that looked like a mix between birds and fish. Ellie flew across first to test the bridge, but halfway through, a loud snap echoed as one of the ropes began to fray. "Run!" Ellie shouted. Max and Finley dashed across as quickly as they could. Just as Max stepped off the bridge, the final rope snapped, and the bridge collapsed into the chasm. The three friends looked back, relieved but shaken. Chapter 15, The Crystal Keepers. After climbing higher, the group discovered a hidden village nestled in a snowy valley. The villagers were the Crystal Keepers, guardians of ancient magical stones that controlled the balance of nature. One elder, a snow fox named Arwen, welcomed them. "You must be the travelers from Willowbrook. We saw the silver moon too." Arwen explained that the balance of magic was disrupted because one of the sacred crystals had been stolen. Without it, the moon's light would fade, and darkness would spread across the land. Finley stepped forward. "We'll find the crystal and bring it back." Chapter 16, The Shadow's Trail. The elder told them the crystal had been stolen by a creature known only as the Shadow. It was said to live in the Cave of Echoes, a place filled with illusions and traps. The friends followed a faint trail leading to the cave. Along the way, they encountered frozen waterfalls and snowstorms, but they pressed on. Finley's bravery, Ellie's wisdom, and Max's strength kept them going. At last, they reached the cave. Its entrance was dark and ominous, with strange, echoing sounds drifting out. Chapter 17, The Cave of Echoes. Inside the cave, everything felt strange. When the friends spoke, their voices echoed back with strange twists. "Who's there?" Max called, but the echoes replied, "Who's scared?" The shadow played tricks on their minds, creating illusions of their worst fears. Max saw his favorite blueberry bush withering away. Ellie saw her books torn to shreds. Finley saw the forest in flames. But Ellie reminded them, "These are just tricks. Remember, we're stronger together." The friends held paws and wings and pushed forward, ignoring the illusions. The cave seemed to grow angry, shaking and rumbling, but they didn't stop. Chapter 18, The Shadow Revealed. At the heart of the cave, they found the shadow, a swirling black mist with glowing red eyes. The stolen crystal floated inside it, pulsing with light. "You cannot defeat me," the shadow hissed. "I feed on fear and doubt." But Finley, Ellie, and Max stood firm. "We're not afraid of you," they shouted together. Their courage created a golden light that pushed back the darkness. The shadow shrieked and dissolved into nothingness, leaving the crystal behind. Chapter 19, Restoring the Balance. With the crystal safely in their paws, the friends raced back to the Crystal Keeper's village. The elder Arwen placed the crystal in its rightful place, and the silver moon returned to its bright, white glow. The villagers cheered. "The balance is restored. Thank you, brave ones." Chapter 20, The Journey Home. The trek back to Willowbrook was long, but the friends felt stronger than ever. They had faced their fears, outsmarted tricks, and saved the balance of nature. When they finally reached home, the villagers welcomed them with a grand feast. Finley, Ellie, and Max shared their story, but they didn't boast. They knew their adventure had been about more than just bravery, it was about friendship and trust. As Finley curled up in his cozy den that night, he looked out at the glowing moon and smiled. "I wonder what adventure will come next." And so, the forest and its guardians slept peacefully, knowing that the brave little fox and his friends were always ready to protect it. The Adventures of Lila and the Whispering Woods. Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by endless green hills, there lived a little girl named Lila. She had curious golden eyes and a big heart that always searched for adventure. Lila's best friend was not another child but a scruffy gray fox named Tycho. Tycho was clever and playful, and together they spent their days exploring meadows, streams, and forests near their home. But there was one place Lila had never been, the Whispering Woods. The Whispering Woods stood at the edge of the village, its tall trees casting shadows that danced like secrets. People said the woods were magical. Some said you could hear voices whispering your name. Others believed that if you got too close, the trees would trap you forever. Why do the woods whisper? Lila once asked her grandmother. No one knows, her grandmother replied, stirring a pot of soup. But it is said the woods hide something precious. Only the bravest can find it. The more Lila heard about the woods, the more curious she became. What could be inside? And who was brave enough to find it? One sunny morning, Lila tied her hair with a red ribbon, packed her satchel with apples and water, and turned to Tycho. "Let's go to the Whispering Woods." Tycho tilted his head and wagged his fluffy tail. He was ready. The two friends trotted through the village, past the flower fields, and finally stood at the edge of the woods. The trees were tall and twisted, their branches reaching out like fingers. A cool breeze swirled around them, and for a moment, Lila thought she heard something. Laila. Her heart skipped a beat. "Did you hear that, Tycho?" Tycho's ears perked up, but he wasn't scared. He barked softly, encouraging her to take the first step. As they entered, the air smelled different, like pine needles and wildflowers. The ground was soft with moss, and sunlight barely peeked through the thick canopy above. Every now and then, Lila heard faint whispers, but she couldn't tell where they came from. "Who's there?" she called. No one answered, but the whispers grew louder. "Do you think the woods are alive?" Lila whispered to Tycho. Tycho barked twice, as if to say, maybe. Deeper and deeper they went, and soon they came to a clearing where a shimmering blue stream flowed. The water sparkled like diamonds, and beside it stood a strange creature. It was as tall as Lila, with wings like a dragonfly and skin that glowed softly. "Hello," the creature said, its voice like a melody. Lila froze. She had never seen anything like it before. Tycho growled softly, standing protectively in front of her. "Don't be afraid," the creature said. "I am Elora, a guardian of the Whispering Woods." "What brings you here?" Lila hesitated, then said, "I want to know why the woods whisper." Elora tilted her head. "Many come searching for answers, but few are willing to listen. Do you wish to hear the truth?" Lila nodded eagerly. Elora waved her hand, and suddenly, the whispers grew louder. They weren't just random sounds, they were words. The trees were speaking, each one telling its own story. "They whisper," Elora explained, "because each tree holds a memory of someone who visited these woods long ago. Their stories are too precious to be forgotten, so the woods remember them." Lila listened closely. She heard a story about a brave knight who once hid a treasure in the forest, a tale of a kind girl who saved an injured bird, and even a legend about a king who planted the first tree here. "Wow," Lila breathed. "But, why don't people know this?" Elora's glowing wings flickered. "The woods share their secrets only with those who are kind, brave, and curious. That is why you can hear them." Lila felt proud, but also a little sad. "Can I leave a story here too?" Elora smiled. "Of course. But to leave a story, you must give something precious, something from the heart." Lila thought for a moment, then untied the red ribbon from her hair. "This was my mother's. She gave it to me before she passed away. It's my most precious thing." Elora touched the ribbon, and it glowed brightly before disappearing into the air. "Your story will now live here forever," Elora said. "The trees will remember your courage, your kindness, and your adventure." Suddenly, the forest seemed to change. The whispers became softer, almost like a song, and the path ahead grew brighter. Lila and Tycho felt a warm breeze guiding them back toward the village. "Will I ever see you again?" Lila asked Elora. "Perhaps," Elora said with a wink. "The woods will always welcome you, Lila." When Lila and Tycho stepped out of the forest, everything looked the same, yet different. The village seemed brighter, and the people smiled at her as if they knew she had done something special. From that day on, Lila often visited the Whispering Woods. She brought friends and told them the stories she had heard, teaching them to listen to the whispers. And though she never saw Elora again, she always felt the guardian's presence in the rustling leaves and the soft murmurs of the trees. The Whispering Woods had shared its secrets with her, and in return, she became part of its endless story. Lila's adventures in the Whispering Woods didn't stop there. After her first encounter with Elora and the magical whispers, she couldn't help but feel that there were even more secrets waiting to be uncovered. Each time she returned, she discovered something new, something mysterious. One cloudy afternoon, Lila packed her satchel again, this time adding a small notebook and a piece of charcoal for drawing. "I want to record everything," she told Tycho. The fox wagged his tail in agreement. When they arrived at the edge of the woods, the sky rumbled with the promise of rain. But Lila wasn't worried. She had learned that the woods had a way of protecting her, just as Elora had said they would. As she stepped inside, the familiar whispers greeted her. But this time, there was something different. A deeper hum beneath the usual voices, like a distant drumbeat. "Do you hear that?" she asked Tycho. The fox's ears twitched, and he barked softly, urging her to follow the sound. They wandered through the twisting paths, past the sparkling stream where Lila had first met Elora, and into a part of the woods she had never seen before. Here, the trees were older and larger, their bark thick with moss. The air was cooler, and the hum grew louder with each step. Finally, they reached a hidden glade surrounded by trees with silver leaves. In the center of the glade stood an ancient tree with roots that twisted and spiraled like the coils of a snake. The tree pulsed softly with light, as if it were alive. "That must be where the sound is coming from," Lila whispered. As she approached the tree, she noticed something extraordinary. Carved into its trunk were hundreds of symbols, circles, stars, and other shapes she didn't recognize. They glowed faintly, matching the rhythm of the hum. "Who dares approach the heart tree?" a deep voice boomed. Lila jumped back, clutching her satchel. Tycho growled, but his fur bristled with caution, not aggression. I am Lila," she stammered. "I didn't mean to disturb you." From the shadows of the silver trees stepped another guardian. This one was different from Elora. It was tall and strong, with bark-like skin and eyes that shimmered like golden sunlight. It carried a staff made of twisted branches. "I am Therak, keeper of the heart tree," the guardian said, his voice rumbling like thunder. "Why have you come here, child?" Lila swallowed her fear. "I heard the sound, and I wanted to know what it was. I've met Elora, and she told me the woods share their stories. Is this tree part of that magic?" Theric studied her for a long moment, then nodded. The heart tree is the source of all the whispers you hear. It connects every tree in the forest, gathering the stories of all who visit. But the heart tree holds more than just memories. It holds the soul of the forest itself. Lila's eyes widened. The soul of the forest? Is it alive? In a way, Theric said. The heart tree listens, watches, and remembers. It keeps the forest strong. But it is also vulnerable. If it were to be harmed, the magic of the whispering woods would fade forever. Lila felt a shiver run down her spine. Who would want to harm it? Theric's gaze darkened. There are those who seek power above all else. They would destroy this forest to claim its magic for themselves. That is why the guardians protect it. Lila clenched her fists. Is there a way I can help? Theric seemed surprised by her offer. You are brave, child. There is one thing you can do. The heart tree needs someone to share its stories with the world. If people understand the forest's magic, they will help protect it. Will you take on this task? Yes. Lila said without hesitation. Theric smiled, and the glow of the heart tree grew brighter. Then the forest will trust you with a gift. He tapped the ground with his staff, and a small silver acorn fell from the heart tree's branches. It rolled to Lila's feet, glimmering like a tiny star. This acorn contains a piece of the forest's soul, Theric explained. Plant it where you see the need for magic and hope. It will grow into a new tree, connected to the heart tree, spreading its wisdom and whispers. Lila picked up the acorn carefully, holding it as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Thank you, she said. Remember, Theric warned, the forest will protect you, but it will also test you. Be wise, be kind, and above all, be true. With that, the guardian faded into the shadows, and the heart tree's hum grew softer. Lila and Tycho made their way back to the village, but this time, Lila felt different. She wasn't just a curious girl anymore, she was part of something bigger. She had a responsibility to share the magic of the Whispering Woods and protect its secrets. Over the following weeks, Lila told her story to everyone who would listen. She drew pictures of the heart tree, wrote down the tales she heard from the whispers, and even taught the other children how to listen closely to the forest. One day, she found the perfect spot to plant the silver acorn, a barren hill at the edge of the village where nothing had grown for years. She dug a small hole, placed the acorn inside, and covered it with soil. As she stood back, the ground began to glow faintly, and a tiny sapling sprouted before her eyes. The villagers came to see, amazed by the sudden growth. Lila didn't tell them everything about the acorn, but she promised that the tree would bring new life to their village. And it did. Over time, the sapling grew into a tall, beautiful tree, its leaves shimmering like silver. The villagers called it the Tree of Whispers, and it became a place where people gathered to share stories, dreams, and hopes. But Lila knew the truth. The tree was part of the Whispering Woods, and its magic would always connect her to the forest she loved. As the years passed, Lila continued to visit the woods with Tycho by her side. She met more guardians, learned more secrets, and left behind her own stories for the trees to remember. And though she grew older, her heart remained as curious and brave as the day she first entered the Whispering Woods. The forest whispered her name, and Lila whispered back, her voice now part of its endless song. The Clockmaker's Paradox. In a quiet English village tucked into the misty hills of Somerset, there was a peculiar clock shop run by an enigmatic man named Elias Finch. To the locals, Elias was a master craftsman with a strange habit of never aging. His shop, filled with antique timepieces, had an almost otherworldly quality, each clock ticking in perfect harmony. What the villagers didn't know was that Elias Finch wasn't just a clockmaker, he was a time traveler. Elias had discovered his gift in 1832 when, as a young apprentice, he stumbled upon a peculiar pocket watch in his master's collection. The watch didn't keep ordinary time. Instead, its intricate gears allowed Elias to slip through the threads of time itself. One twist of the dial would take him forward, another backward. Over the years, he learned to use it sparingly, careful not to disrupt the flow of history. But one day, in the winter of 2024, something happened that shook Elias to his core. A woman entered his shop, Anna Whitlock, a historian investigating the disappearance of her great-great-grandfather, a man named Oliver Whitlock. She carried an old photograph of Oliver, a clockmaker who had vanished without a trace in 1851. The photo made Elias freeze, for he knew that face well. Oliver Whitlock was his mentor, the very man from whom he had stolen the mysterious pocket watch. "You seem troubled," Anna remarked, her sharp eyes narrowing. Elias quickly recovered. "Not at all, madam. I just recognized the style of his work." He was quite the craftsman. As Anna asked questions, Elias was haunted by guilt. He had never intended to steal the watch, he'd only wanted to understand its strange properties. But when he activated it by accident, he had been thrust into the future, leaving Oliver behind. That moment had set Elias on his journey through time. That evening, as snow fell outside the shop, Elias resolved to fix his mistake. He could no longer bear the burden of his theft. Taking the pocket watch, he set the dial for 1851 and stepped through the veil of time. When Elias arrived in 1851, the familiar sense of wood polish and grease filled his senses. Oliver's workshop looked just as he remembered, but the man himself was hunched over a desk, his face shadowed by despair. "Oliver," Elias said softly. Oliver turned, his eyes widening in shock. "Elias? But, how?" Elias held out the watch. "I owe you an apology, old friend. I took this from you. I didn't know what it truly was, but it's yours. It always was." Oliver stared at the watch, then back at Elias. "You've been traveling through time?" Elias nodded. "And I've seen things you wouldn't believe. But I've also learned the price of meddling. I've come to return this to you." Oliver hesitated. "If you give it back, what happens to you?" Won't you be stranded here? Elias smiled wistfully. Perhaps it's time I stopped running. I've lived so many lifetimes, seen so many futures. Maybe it's time I let the clock wind down. But as Oliver reached for the watch, a sudden tremor shook the air. The pocket watch began to glow, its gears spinning wildly. The device was reacting unpredictably to Elias's long use. Before either man could act, the watch shattered into a cascade of golden light. Elias awoke in his shop, the familiar ticking of clocks surrounding him. But something was different. The snow was gone, replaced by blooming cherry blossoms. He stepped outside and found himself in the spring of 2024. Anna Whitlock stood across the street, waving at him. "I found something else about my ancestor," she called. He went on to become a famous inventor after 1851. They say he was inspired by a mysterious traveler. Elias smiled. He no longer had the watch, but he had found peace. The timelines had corrected themselves, and his debt was repaid. The shop remained his sanctuary, not as a gateway to the past or future, but as a place where time itself stood still. And so, Elias Finch stayed in the present, a man who had once danced through centuries but now found comfort in the ticking of clocks and the quiet passing of days. The Clockmaker's Paradox, Part 2. Elias Finch's life seemed quieter after that fateful spring. For the first time in centuries, he was untethered from the currents of time. Yet, the absence of the pocket watch left a strange void in his heart. He couldn't help but wonder if his adventures were truly over, or if fate had more in store for him. Anna Whitlock became a frequent visitor to his shop, her curiosity insatiable. She would sit on a wooden stool, watching him repair old clocks while peppering him with questions about history, craftsmanship, and her great-great-grandfather. "Do you ever wonder what he was really like?" Anna asked one evening as the golden glow of sunset poured through the shop's windows. Elias smiled, his hands deftly adjusting the mechanism of a cuckoo clock. Oliver was brilliant, far more than I ever gave him credit for. Kind-hearted, too. The watch should have been his all along. But perhaps. He paused, gazing thoughtfully at the clock he was repairing. Perhaps his true genius only emerged because I left him to find his own path. Anna leaned forward, sensing something unspoken in his words. "Do you regret it? Traveling through time, I mean." Elias hesitated. He had often asked himself the same question. "I don't regret the wonders I've seen or the lives I've touched. But, time has a way of weighing on you. Every step forward or backward leaves ripples. And sometimes, the hardest part is knowing what, or who, you've left behind." Anna nodded, her expression thoughtful. "But you've done so much good. Oliver's inventions changed his era. And you've inspired me." Elias chuckled. "Inspired you to what, exactly?" Anna grinned mischievously. "To figure out your secret." The stranger with the broken watch. One evening, just as Elias was locking up the shop, a stranger stumbled through the door. He was young, disheveled, and clutching a peculiar watch. Its design was familiar, too familiar. The watch's face was cracked, its gears exposed and sparking faintly with a golden light. "Help me," the man gasped, collapsing onto the floor. Elias rushed to his side, his heart pounding. "Where did you get this?" The man's eyes flickered open, filled with desperation. "I don't know. I just woke up with it. It doesn't stop ticking. Please, make it stop." Elias carefully took the watch from the man's trembling hands. The moment he touched it, a jolt of energy coursed through him. Memories, not his own, flashed before his eyes. A futuristic city engulfed in chaos, a laboratory filled with machines beyond comprehension, and a group of scientists arguing over the ethics of manipulating time. The man groaned, pulling Elias back to the present. They said it was a prototype. A new model. But it's broken. It keeps pulling me. Elias's mind raced. This watch wasn't like his old one, it was far more advanced, and far more dangerous. Whoever had built it hadn't perfected its design. The broken mechanism was destabilizing, dragging its wearer through time at random. "You're a traveler, aren't you?" the man whispered. You know how to fix it." Elias hesitated. He had sworn to leave time travel behind. But as he looked at the stranger, lost, frightened, and on the verge of unraveling, he knew he couldn't turn away. A dangerous fix. Over the next few days, Elias worked tirelessly to repair the watch. Its complexity was staggering, its inner workings unlike anything he had ever seen. Anna helped where she could, researching strange symbols etched into the watch's casing. They discovered that the device wasn't just a time machine, it was a fragment of something larger, a piece of a network designed to rewrite the fabric of history itself. Whoever built this wasn't just traveling through time, Elias muttered. They were trying to control it. Anna frowned. Control it? Like, change events? Precisely. And if this watch is destabilized? He didn't finish the thought, but Anna understood. The consequences could ripple through time, erasing entire timelines. As Elias worked, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't a coincidence. Someone, or something, had sent this man to his shop. But why? And what role was Elias meant to play in this new chapter of temporal chaos? The watchmaker's choice. Finally, after days of grueling effort, Elias repaired the watch, or so he thought. The stranger, now stronger and more coherent, was eager to take it back. Are you sure you want to use it again? Elias asked, his voice heavy with warning. This isn't a toy. It's a responsibility. The man hesitated, his eyes filled with a mix of determination and fear. I don't have a choice. I need to get back. There's something I have to stop. Stop. Elias pressed. What are you running from? The man looked away. A mistake. One that could destroy everything. Elias's heart sank. He had heard those words before, in his own voice, long ago. He handed the watch back but placed a firm hand on the man's shoulder. If you go, you may not come back. Be sure of your purpose. And remember, time doesn't forgive easily. The man nodded, twisting the watch's dial. For a brief moment, golden light filled the room, and then he was gone. The loom of time. In the days that followed, Elias felt a sense of unease. He couldn't shake the feeling that the stranger's mission was connected to something larger, something that would come back to him. Anna sensed it too. You think this is over? She asked one evening. Elias shook his head, gazing out the shop window at the quiet village street. No. This is just the beginning. Time has its own plans. And somehow, I think we're part of them. As the clocks ticked softly around him, Elias knew he couldn't hide forever. The threads of time were shifting again, and his quiet life in the present was but a momentary pause in a story that was far from finished. And so, he waited, not for the past, nor the future, but for the inevitable moment when time itself would call him back into its endless dance. The little girl who found her mom. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Mia. She was 7 years old and lived in a small village near a big forest. Mia had long, curly hair and bright, curious eyes. She loved to run, play, and chase butterflies. But most of all, she loved her mom. Her mom's name was Rosa, and she was kind and gentle. Rosa sang sweet songs to Mia every night before bed. One morning, Mia woke up and noticed something strange. The house was very quiet. Usually, her mom would be in the kitchen, cooking breakfast or humming a song. But today, the kitchen was empty. The bed was made, and her mom's shoes were not near the door. Where is Mama? Mia thought. She searched the house, calling, Mama. Mama. But there was no answer. Mia felt a little scared, but she told herself to stay brave. Mama must have gone somewhere. I will find her, Mia said. Mia grabbed her small backpack and filled it with some bread, an apple, and a bottle of water. She also took her favorite scarf, the one her mom had made for her. Then, she opened the door and stepped outside. The forest. Mia's house was near the edge of a big, dark forest. The villagers often said, "Don't go into the forest. It's dangerous." But Mia felt she had no choice. Her mom might be in there. She took a deep breath and walked into the forest. The trees were tall, and their branches blocked the sunlight. It felt like evening, even though it was morning. The ground was covered in leaves, and Mia's footsteps made soft crunching sounds. Mama, she called, but only the wind answered. After walking for a long time, Mia heard a rustling noise in the bushes. She stopped and looked. Out jumped a small rabbit. It was white with big ears and soft fur. "Hello, little rabbit," Mia said. "Have you seen my mama?" The rabbit twitched its nose but did not say anything. Still, Mia felt less lonely. She decided to follow the rabbit, hoping it might lead her somewhere. The river. The rabbit hopped ahead, and Mia followed. Soon, they came to a river. The water was clear and sparkled like diamonds in the sunlight. Mia knelt by the river and drank some water. It was cold and fresh. She ate a little piece of bread and rested. Where could Mama be? Mia wondered. Suddenly, she noticed something on the ground near the riverbank. It was a small flower, tied with a piece of string. Mia picked it up. It looked just like the flowers her mom used to tie in her hair. Mama must have been here, Mia said excitedly. She stood up and looked around. Mama, she called again, louder this time. But there was still no answer. The rabbit was gone now, and Mia felt a little lonely again. But she didn't give up. She decided to keep walking along the river. The stranger. As Mia walked, she saw someone ahead. It was a tall woman carrying a basket. Mia ran up to her. "Excuse me," Mia said. "Have you seen my mama? Her name is Rosa, and she has curly hair like me." The woman smiled kindly. "I'm sorry, little one. I haven't seen anyone like that. But don't worry, you're a brave girl. Keep going, and I'm sure you'll find her." The woman gave Mia an orange from her basket. "Here, take this for your journey," she said. "Thank you," Mia said. She put the orange in her backpack and continued walking. The storm. After a while, the sky began to turn gray. Dark clouds covered the sun, and the wind started to blow. Mia felt cold. Soon, rain began to fall, and it came down hard. Mia found a big tree and sat under it to stay dry. She pulled out her scarf and wrapped it around herself. "Please let Mama be okay," Mia whispered. She felt a little scared, but she didn't cry. She ate the orange the kind woman had given her, and it made her feel a little better. When the rain stopped, Mia saw a rainbow in the sky. It was big and beautiful, and it gave her hope. "Maybe the rainbow will lead me to Mama," she thought. She stood up and started walking again. The old man. As Mia walked, she saw a small hut in the forest. Smoke was coming from the chimney. She knocked on the door, and an old man opened it. He had a long white beard and kind eyes. "Hello, little one," he said. "What are you doing in the forest all alone?" "I'm looking for my mama," Mia said. "Have you seen her?" The old man shook his head. "I haven't seen her, but I can help you. The forest is big, and it's easy to get lost. I will give you something special." He went inside and came back with a lantern. "This lantern will light your way, even in the darkest parts of the forest," he said. "Thank you, sir," Mia said. She took the lantern and continued her journey. The clearing. Mia walked for what felt like hours. She was tired, but the lantern helped her see the path. Finally, she came to a clearing in the forest. In the middle of the clearing was a small cabin. Smoke was rising from its chimney, just like the old man's hut. Mia's heart began to beat faster. She ran to the cabin and knocked on the door. "Mama," she called. The door opened, and there was her mom. Rosa looked surprised and then very happy. "Mia. My sweet girl, how did you find me?" Mia hugged her mom tightly. "I woke up, and you were gone. I was scared, so I came to find you." Rosa kissed Mia's head. "I'm so sorry, my love. I went to the forest to pick some herbs, but I got lost when the storm came. I'm so proud of you for being brave." Mia and her mom stayed in the cabin that night. The next morning, they used the lantern to find their way back home. The villagers were so happy to see them safe. From that day on, Mia and her mom always stayed close to each other. And Mia never forgot her adventure in the big forest or the kind people who helped her along the way. A new beginning. Life went back to normal in the little village after Mia and her mom returned home. Rosa promised never to wander too far into the forest again without telling Mia. But something had changed for Mia. She kept thinking about her adventure and the people and things she had seen, the rabbit, the river, the old man with the lantern, and the kind woman with the basket. One sunny morning, Mia sat on the porch of their little house, holding the lantern the old man had given her. She stared at it, wondering if there were still more secrets hidden in the forest. "Mama," she said, "do you think the forest has more adventures waiting for me?" Rosa smiled. "The forest is big, and the world is even bigger. But remember, you're still little. Adventures are wonderful, but they can also be dangerous. If you want to explore, you need to be careful." Mia nodded. "Maybe one day, I'll go back with you. We can explore together." The mysterious letter. A week later, something unusual happened. Mia and her mom were in the garden picking vegetables when a bird flew down and landed near Mia. It was not just any bird, it was a beautiful blue bird with golden feathers on its wings. In its beak, it carried a small rolled-up piece of paper. "Look, Mama," Mia said, pointing at the bird. The bird hopped closer and dropped the paper at Mia's feet. Then, it flew away. Mia picked up the paper and unrolled it. The writing on it was small and neat. Mia read it aloud. "To the brave girl with the lantern. Thank you for helping the forest. The lantern you carry is special. It has more power than you know. If you are curious, come back to the clearing where you found your mother. There is more to see. A friend." Mia's eyes widened. "Mama, do you think this is real? Who sent this?" Rosa looked at the letter, her brow furrowed. "I don't know, Mia. It's strange, but it doesn't seem like a joke. Whoever wrote this seems to know about your journey." Mia felt her heart race with excitement. "Can we go back to the clearing?" "Please, Mama." Rosa hesitated. "Only if we go together, and only if we prepare. The forest is not a place to go lightly." Back into the forest. The next morning, Mia and her mom packed everything they might need: food, water, warm blankets, and the lantern. They also brought a map of the forest, though it didn't show every path. Mia carried the lantern carefully, feeling its weight in her hands. The forest felt different this time. It was still dark and mysterious, but Mia wasn't scared. She had her mom by her side, and she felt braver than ever. After walking for hours, they reached the clearing. The cabin where Rosa had stayed during the storm was gone, as if it had never been there. In its place stood a tall tree with golden leaves that sparkled in the sunlight. "Wow," Mia whispered. "That wasn't here before." They approached the tree, and Mia noticed something carved into its trunk. It was an arrow pointing downward. At the base of the tree, there was a small door. "A door in a tree?" Rosa said, surprised. "I've never seen anything like this." Mia touched the lantern, and it began to glow softly. The glow spread to the door, and it creaked open. The secret path. Behind the door was a staircase that led down into the earth. It was lit by tiny, glowing mushrooms growing along the walls. Mia looked at her mom, who nodded. "Stay close to me," Rosa said. They stepped inside and began to descend. The air grew cooler as they went deeper. The staircase ended in a wide tunnel. At the end of the tunnel was a room filled with light. As they stepped into the room, Mia gasped. The room was full of strange and wonderful things, books that floated in the air, flowers that changed color, and pools of water that showed reflections of places Mia had never seen. In the middle of the room was a small table, and on the table was a note. Rosa picked up the note and read it aloud. "Welcome to the heart of the forest. Only those with courage and kindness can enter. The lantern you carry is a key to this place. Here, you will find knowledge and magic to help those in need. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility. Use it wisely." Mia looked around the room in awe. "Mama, does this mean we can help people? Like the old man and the kind woman helped us?" Rosa smiled. "I think it does, Mia. This is a gift, but it's also a duty. We have to use it to do good." The keeper of the forest. As they explored the magical room, a figure appeared. It was a woman with hair like silver and eyes that sparkled like stars. She wore a long, flowing robe covered in patterns of leaves and flowers. "Who are you?" Mia asked, feeling both curious and a little shy. "I am the keeper of the forest," the woman said. "I protect this place and its secrets. The lantern you carry belonged to a brave soul who once helped the forest long ago. Now, it is yours." Mia held the lantern tightly. "But I'm just a little girl. How can I help the forest?" The keeper smiled. "Courage does not depend on age. You've already shown kindness and bravery. With this lantern, you can bring light to dark places, find lost things, and guide those who need help. But remember, the forest gives as much as it takes. Always treat it with respect." A new purpose. When Mia and Rosa left the heart of the forest, they felt different, stronger, wiser, and more connected to the world around them. They returned to their village, but now they had a new purpose: to help those in need, whether it was finding lost children, guiding travelers, or protecting the forest from harm. Mia became known as the girl with the lantern, and her story spread far and wide. People from other villages came to ask for her help, and Mia never turned them away. Years later, when Mia grew up, she became the keeper of the forest herself. But she never forgot her first adventure or the lesson she learned: bravery and kindness can light even the darkest paths. The brave journey of Surina the snake. Once upon a time, deep in the heart of a jungle, there lived a kind and gentle snake named Surina. She was a long, shiny green snake with golden eyes that sparkled like the morning sun. Surina had just laid her eggs in a soft, hidden nest near the base of a large mango tree. She had worked hard to find the perfect spot, away from the curious monkeys and the prowling cats. Surina felt proud. Her eggs were her treasure. She would have stayed with them, but she had to search for food. "I'll be back soon," she whispered to the eggs. She slithered quietly out of the nest, looking back one last time to make sure they were safe. As Surina moved through the jungle, she heard a loud caw from above. A black crow with sharp eyes swooped low and landed on the branch of the mango tree. Surina felt worried. "What if the crow finds my eggs?" she thought. She hurried back to the nest, her heart pounding. But when she arrived, her nest was empty. The eggs were gone. Surina felt her heart sink. "Who could have taken them?" she whispered, her golden eyes filled with tears. She saw small footprints in the dirt and a trail leading away. Surina took a deep breath. "I will find my eggs. No matter what." She followed the footprints, her body moving silently through the grass. The footprints led to the riverbank. There, Surina saw a group of tiny creatures. They were mongoose pups playing in the sand. Their mother was watching them, her sharp teeth gleaming. Surina stayed hidden in the grass. She knew that mongooses were her enemies. They might have taken her eggs, but she couldn't fight them alone. She waited and watched. Then, she noticed something. The pups were rolling a small round object in the sand. Surina's heart skipped a beat. It was one of her eggs. She needed a plan. Surina moved closer, still keeping herself hidden. She saw a tall bamboo plant nearby. Using her strong body, she wrapped herself around the bamboo and shook it. The leaves rustled loudly, and the mongoose pups froze. They looked around, frightened by the noise. Then their mother barked, "Run into the burrow." The pups dropped the egg and ran away. As soon as the mongooses were gone, Surina slithered out quickly. She picked up her egg gently with her mouth and placed it in a safe spot under a bush. "I will come back for you," she promised. But there were still more eggs to find. Surina continued following the trail. It led her deeper into the jungle, where the trees were taller and the light barely touched the ground. She moved carefully, her body weaving between roots and fallen leaves. Suddenly, she heard a rustling sound. Surina froze. A large monitor lizard appeared. Its tongue flicked in and out as it sniffed the air. Serena stayed very still, hoping the lizard wouldn't see her. But then she saw it. Another one of her eggs was stuck in the mud near the lizard's feet. Serena knew she had to act fast. She waited for the lizard to look away. Then, she quickly darted forward, grabbing the egg and pulling it out of the mud. The lizard turned its head, but Serena was already gone, slithering into the bushes with her precious egg. By now, Serena was tired. She had found 2 eggs, but she didn't know how many were still missing. "I can't give up," she told herself. Her babies needed her. The trail led Serena to an open field filled with flowers. It was beautiful, but Serena knew it was dangerous. Hawks often hunted in the open fields. She moved carefully, keeping low to the ground. Then she saw it, a bright red flower with an egg nestled inside its petals. Serena was relieved but puzzled. "How did my egg get here?" she wondered. As she reached for the egg, she heard a hiss. A small cobra appeared, its hood flaring wide. The cobra had claimed the flower as its home. Serena didn't want to fight, but she had no choice. She raised her head and hissed back. The 2 snakes circled each other, their bodies tense. Serena didn't want to hurt the cobra, so she used her speed. She struck quickly, not to bite, but to distract. The cobra lunged at her, and in that moment, Serena grabbed the egg and escaped. By now, the sun was setting. The jungle was growing dark, and Serena felt exhausted. She had 3 eggs, but she still didn't know if she had found them all. "I must keep going," she said. Her body ached, but her heart was strong. As she moved through the shadows, Serena heard a familiar sound, a soft chirping. She followed the sound and found a nest high in a tree. A pair of parrots were perched nearby, guarding something. Serena climbed the tree carefully. She saw her final egg in the parrot's nest. The parrots squawked loudly as Serena approached. "This is not your egg," Serena said firmly. "It belongs to me." The parrots tilted their heads, as if they understood. Then, to Serena's surprise, they stepped aside. Serena gently took her egg and climbed back down. She now had all her eggs. She carried them back to her original nest under the mango tree. This time, she hid them even better, covering them with leaves and moss. Serena curled up around her eggs, her body protecting them like a warm blanket. She felt proud and happy. "I will never leave you again," she whispered. And so, Serena the snake kept her promise. She stayed with her eggs until they hatched, and her tiny baby snakes slithered out into the world, safe and sound. The jungle was dangerous, but Serena had shown that love and bravery could overcome any challenge. This story is designed to be easy to read but engaging, with clear action and relatable emotions. If you'd like, I can format it into a PDF for easier reading. Let me know. Serena was filled with joy as she watched her babies hatch. One by one, the little snakes wiggled free from their eggshells, their tiny bodies glistening in the sunlight that filtered through the mango tree leaves. There were 6 of them, each with scales as shiny and green as Serina's own. "You are my little treasures," she whispered, curling around them protectively. The baby snakes looked at her with bright eyes, their tiny tongues flicking in and out as they explored their new world. Serena felt proud, but she also knew the jungle was not a safe place for her children. "I must teach them to survive," she thought. For the first few days, Serena stayed close to the nest. She taught her babies how to hide from danger, how to move silently, and how to sense the vibrations of footsteps in the ground. The jungle was alive with predators, and Serena knew that the crow, the lizard, and even the mongoose might return. One afternoon, as the babies were practicing their slithering, a shadow passed overhead. Serena's heart raced. It was a hawk, circling high above the tree. She quickly signaled to her babies, flicking her tail in a way that meant, "Hide now." The little snakes obeyed, sliding under leaves and into small holes in the ground. The hawk landed on a branch, its sharp eyes scanning the ground. Serena stayed completely still, blending in with the shadows. The hawk tilted its head, trying to find movement, but Serena had taught her babies well. After a few tense moments, the hawk gave up and flew away. When the danger had passed, Serena called her babies out of their hiding spots. "You were very brave," she told them. "But you must always be careful. The jungle is full of surprises." As the days passed, Serena's babies grew stronger. They learned how to climb trees, how to swim in the shallow river, and how to hunt small insects. Serena watched them with pride, but she also felt a twinge of sadness. She knew that one day, her babies would leave the nest and start lives of their own. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, one of the little snakes, a curious one named Lumo, asked, "Mama, why can't we stay here forever?" Serena smiled gently. "This is our home for now, but the jungle is very big. You will grow up and find your own place, just like I did. That is how life works." Lumo looked thoughtful. "But will we see you again?" "Of course," Serena said. "No matter where you go, we will always be connected. You are my heart, and my heart goes with you wherever you slither." That night, the babies cuddled close to Serena, their tiny bodies warm and soft against hers. She sang them a soft, humming song, a tune her own mother had taught her long ago. As the weeks turned into months, the little snakes began to explore further from the nest. Serena let them practice their independence, but she always kept a watchful eye. One day, the boldest of the group, a young snake named Mira, announced, "I want to see the river." Serena hesitated. The river was beautiful, but it was also dangerous. She thought about the monitor lizard and the other predators that lived near the water. But she also knew that Mira needed to learn. "I will take you to the river," she said. "But you must listen to everything I say." The journey to the river was long and filled with lessons. Serena showed Mira how to move through tall grass without making a sound. She taught her how to stay low and watch the sky for hawks. When they reached the river, Myra's eyes lit up. The water sparkled in the sunlight, and colorful dragonflies darted above the surface. "It's beautiful," Mira exclaimed. "It is," Serena agreed. "But remember, beauty can hide danger. Always be careful." As Mira explored the riverbank, Serena stayed alert. She saw a crocodile sunning itself on a distant rock and made sure to keep Mira far away. When Mira found a small frog and caught it for her first meal, Serena felt a surge of pride. "You are growing up," she said softly. The day finally came when the young snakes were ready to leave the nest. Serena gathered them together under the mango tree. "You are all strong and smart," she told them. "You have learned everything I can teach you. Now it is time for you to find your own paths." The babies looked at her with a mix of excitement and sadness. They loved their mother, but they were eager to explore the world. One by one, they slithered away, each heading in a different direction. Mira went toward the river, Lumo toward the tall grass, and the others into the dense jungle. Serena watched them go, her heart full of love and pride. She knew they would face challenges, but she also knew they were ready. "Be safe, my little ones," she whispered. Now, the jungle felt quiet. Serena missed her babies, but she also felt a sense of peace. She had done her job, and she had done it well. As she curled up under the mango tree, she thought about the adventures her children would have and the new families they would one day create. Serena closed her golden eyes, the sound of the jungle around her. She knew that life would continue, full of challenges and beauty, danger and love. And in her heart, she carried the memory of her brave journey to find her eggs and the joy of seeing her babies grow. The jungle was her home, and she was ready for whatever came next. A new beginning for Serena. Serena remained under the mango tree for many days after her babies left. She missed them dearly. Sometimes, she would imagine their tiny voices calling to her, or the soft sound of their slithering nearby. But the jungle was never silent for long. Life buzzed around her, the chatter of monkeys, the songs of birds, and the rustling of leaves as the wind danced through the trees. Serena decided that she, too, needed to explore again. Her babies had found their own paths, and now it was time for her to seek something new. "The jungle is big," she thought. "And I am not done discovering it." With a flick of her tail, Serena left the mango tree, her body gliding gracefully over the forest floor. She moved with a quiet confidence, her senses sharp and her heart steady. Though the jungle was familiar, every day brought something new, a flower she had never seen before, a path carved by the rain, or the call of an unfamiliar animal. One morning, as Serena traveled along the edge of the river, she noticed something unusual. The river had swelled from recent rains, and part of the bank had crumbled into the water. A fallen tree created a small bridge across the stream, and on the other side, she saw a beautiful glade she had never visited before. Curious, Serena crossed the tree carefully, her body balancing like a ribbon on the wind. When she reached the glade, she was greeted by a sight that took her breath away. The grass sparkled with morning dew, and clusters of flowers painted the ground in shades of purple, yellow, and white. In the center of the glade was a large rock, warm from the sun, surrounded by tall ferns. "This is perfect," Serena thought. The glade felt peaceful, like it had been waiting just for her. She decided to make it her new home. Encounters in the glade. For several weeks, Serena lived quietly in the glade. She hunted small frogs and insects, basked in the sun, and enjoyed the solitude. But one evening, as the sun dipped low in the sky, she heard a rustling in the grass. She froze, her body coiled and ready to defend herself. Out of the grass came a familiar face. It was Lumo, her curious child, now grown larger and stronger. Serena's heart leapt with joy. "Lumo," she called. "What brings you here?" "Mama," Lumo said, slithering toward her. "I wanted to see you again. I've been living near the tall grass, but I missed you." Serena nuzzled Lumo fondly. "You've grown so much," she said. "Tell me about your adventures." Lumo shared stories of catching his first mouse, avoiding a hungry eagle, and discovering a hidden grove filled with fireflies. Serena listened with pride, knowing her child was thriving. Lumo stayed in the glade for a few days, resting and sharing meals with his mother. "But soon," he said, "I need to return to my home. But I'll come back to visit." Serena watched him leave, her heart filled with love. She realized that while her babies had gone their own ways, they would never forget her. And just like that, her quiet glade became a place of reunion. A new friend. One day, as Serena basked on the warm rock in the glade, she noticed something unusual. A small, golden snake was curled up near the edge of the glade, looking frightened. The little snake's scales glimmered like sunlight, but its eyes were wide with fear. Serena approached slowly, not wanting to scare the young snake. "Hello," she said gently. "Are you lost?" The little snake looked up at her. "Yes," it said in a trembling voice. "I was chasing a butterfly, and now I don't know how to get home." Serena smiled kindly. "You're safe here," she said. "Come, rest in the glade. I'll help you find your way." The little snake hesitated but then slithered closer, curling up beside Serena on the warm rock. Over the next few days, Serena taught the little snake how to navigate the jungle, how to sense danger, and how to find food. She felt like a mother again, and it filled her heart with joy. When the young snake was ready to leave, it said, "Thank you, Serena. I won't forget you." Serena watched it disappear into the jungle, her heart light with happiness. She realized that her role as a teacher and protector was not over. There would always be others who needed her guidance. The circle of life. As the seasons changed, Serena's glade became a place of life and growth. Her children visited often, sharing their adventures and bringing their own young ones to meet her. The glade buzzed with energy, a peaceful sanctuary in the heart of the jungle. One evening, as the sun set in hues of orange and pink, Serena lay on her favorite rock, feeling the warmth of the day fade into the coolness of night. She thought about her journey, the dangers she had faced to find her eggs, the lessons she had taught her babies, and the new friends she had made. The jungle was vast and full of challenges, but it was also beautiful and full of love. Serena knew that her life had meaning, not just because of her bravery, but because of the care she had given to others. She closed her golden eyes, listening to the soothing sounds of the jungle, and smiled. Serena's story was far from over. The jungle would always have new adventures, new challenges, and new friends. And Serena, with her wisdom and courage, was ready for whatever came next. The end.